Today on Sagittarian Matters, advice on holidays, boundaries, coworkers, and more, with my very special guest, DEAN SPADE. Stay tuned.
Sagittarian Matters, Sagittarian Matters, what's the matter with you? Sagittarian Matters.
DEAN SPADE has been working to build queer and trans liberation based in racial and economic justice for the past 2 decades. He is a law professor and the author of the books Love in a Fucked Up World, Mutual Aid, Building Solidarity During This Crisis and the Next, and Normal Life, Administrative Violence, Critical Trans Politics, and the Limits of Law. Dean joined me in the Sagittarian Matters social distancing studios to give advice to listeners and to tell me about his new Patreon page. You can join him now at patreon.com/DeanSpade. Now, please enjoy my talk with very special friend to the show, DEAN SPADE. DEAN SPADE, welcome back to Sagittarian Matters.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here again.
You're here to talk about advice. You're here to give advice. But before we give advice, will you tell people about your Patreon page?
Thank you. I would have immediately forgotten and then been in so much trouble with the people I'm doing that with. The team of people that I'm making this new podcast with, we launched a Patreon. We did a lot of research about how we wanted to communicate with people about these ideas that we're excited about. And we decided on that one in part because we were convinced by Jessica Lanyadoo, among others, that you can create a space there that feels more connective than Instagram and other hostile spaces where every time I post stuff, people write transphobic and Zionist stuff on it. And I feel kind of limited about what I want to share there. And so to create a space for people who are actually super into these ideas to meet each other on chat boards and where I feel comfortable having different kinds of conversations. So I'm really excited about it. It's already really fun. People are having conversations there. I'm posting stuff I wouldn't post more publicly. And some of the people I work on the podcast with are gonna post things about their creative processes and making the animation in the podcast. So it's pretty cute. And I hope people will join. You can join for free or you can join and donate. And we're also having a book an event on the 21st, our first thing through Patreon, where it's if you've read the book with others, come with your book club or your friend group or whatever on September 21st. And we'll all talk about the book together and also talk about what it's like to decide to read books with our friends.
I love that.
Yeah.
Are you ready for our first question?
I'm ready.
Hi, Nicole and Dean. I'm calling for advice about my family who are all currently on vacation together, my parents, my siblings, their partners, their kids. They're all at the beach together and I'm not there. And I was invited and they actually tried to convince me to come. But the thing is, they're incredibly, intractably Zionist, and he's been fighting about it for 20 years. And every time they have a blowout fight, they come back and ask us I'm being unreasonable for not wanting to be around their totally delusional, genocidal worldview. I guess, just get to the question in case you didn't cut me off there. My question is, how do I release feeling rejected or left out by my terrible family, since I can't seem to fix them and it sucks to be around them. I do think that it's worth saying that I already said I've been fighting with them about this for a long time. But when I say to them I can't be around you because of your politics, only have this fight over another, they keep coming back and acting like everything is normal, and they don't see their politics as genocidal or racist or problematic. They're very all in. They don't think that there is anything wrong happening in Gaza. I think they believe in the human shield argument. They believe the photos are staged or whatever. And I don't really know why I want to hang out with them. It's not fun at all. My partner doesn't want to be around them, and doesn't come with me when I see them, which is complicated. And I feel if I spend time with them and co-signing the season of horrible worldview, and then I like try to punish them or not by not showing up, but they don't seem punished. They're just all together and I'm not with them. So yeah, to reiterate the question, like I don't know how to like let go of this feeling that I'm left out. Okay, thank you. Bye.
I feel so sad for this person. It sucks to have these kinds of differences with your family. It sucks to have people that you on some level like love and feel some, maybe some shared history with or some connection to, like have beliefs that are like so awful. I mean, I think one thing that's been really freeing for me is like, I know some people who are just like, people you're blood related to, they're no different than all the other people on earth. You got to find your people. And that can be really freeing to just be like, we aren't obligated to make it work with these people. And some of us, I feel really a certain kind of connection to people I'm blood related to. Like I feel like I want to make it work, even though with some of them it really isn't a good idea. So I can relate to that. Maybe people who are having that, like where it's like, for me, it's like a wounding around loss of family connection at early age. It makes me kind of like relentlessly seek out family connection sometimes. That's like, even if it's not a good idea, or even if like it's been clear it's a dead end, or I'm gonna be ignored or mistreated or something, right? Or it's not fun or whatever, or it's even worse than that. So I feel like it's like, first of all, just like letting ourselves grieve. Like, I wanted this to be different than it was. I feel like that's like really the center of it. I want it to be different. And I'm going to let myself face this in reality. One thing that I did that was really helpful to me, I had like a kind of a strange dad type of situation who I didn't really grow up with. My parents stopped living together when I was like less than one. And my dad was just like, relentlessly disappointing to be around. Every time I would try, I like both couldn't get him to like have the fight I wish we could have, nor like, and he just was like really checked out, whatever. And it got worse and worse as he aged. And then at some point I just was like, I feel on some spiritual level connected to this person. Like, I feel like it matters that I like came to this world, like through him, but in this way. And I can't meet him on the personality level in this lifetime. And so I invented this idea of calling him on the spirit phone. And I would just be like, I'm just currently sending a message to like the like sort of part of him that's below the personality level from the part of me that's below the personality level of connection and love. And then he died. And it actually was great that I already had practice of like a sense of connection that was not based on the living personality. And I've really taken that with me since that time. Like, okay, like sometimes we can't make it work. I've also done other things like with family members, different kinds of being like, I'm not going to spend more than 24 hours with this person, or I'm like setting really particular limits of how, just knowing that I like lose myself and with certain people, or that I end up in a shame spiral or whatever, just like kind of creating like a situation I can stand and being like, I'm sticking to that, or I'm going to bring someone with me. You're my friend Craig is often the person who has had to come to such things. He came to my dad's funeral with me. But yeah, like I think it's just partly about being like, this is how it is this time and in this lifetime. And who knows, maybe it'll change, but I'm not going to like be naive and keep putting myself in a situation that sucks, or keep putting like partners or best friends or others in a situation that is bad for all of us. And I think, for most of us, it's just about like grieving that, and honoring the part of you. Like also when my dad died, I was like, I'm really upset that he's dead, even though we weren't ever to make anything happen when he was alive. And it's like, because there's a child part of me that wanted to have a certain kind of dad and still wants that, and is grieving that I didn't have it then and I never got it. But it's not really about this dude, you know what I mean? But he does stand for that. And so it's okay. Like, it's okay to just like grieve, even if the people seem like, how could I grieve that? They never weren't like this, or they never showed up for me, or, anyway, I think this is fundamentally about acknowledging and accepting the things that are there, including the parts of us that like love and want these people.
I'm interested. I have a question for you, because as we all know, I have a problematic mother, and she stands for lots of political things that I find atrocious. And she's supported lots of political things my whole life, or for a long time, that I found atrocious and like unbearable if I just focused on that part of her. But in order to, honor this kind of child work, or, whatever sort of thing, I've tried my best as I've gotten older to come at her with more and more compassion when I'm able to. And that might be through me imagining her as a little kid. That might be, and really just like tracking, like she couldn't have done better. And I know that this person's like, my parents could do better. But I wonder, in those moments where you have relatives with politically abhorrent views, for me, it has been changing for our relationship for me to show up with compassion as a middle-aged person and not as an aggrieved teenager. But I wonder how you feel about that. Because, there was a certain time on the podcast where we would tell people, like, you don't have to have these hard conversations when you're a sitting duck at like Christmas dinner, or not Christmas dinner, but, at whatever holiday. But now it feels like we're in a different time where it feels very like, the time is now. Everybody needs to know. And we need to be very on the surface about our politics and what needs to happen immediately. I wonder, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that a lot of people exhaust themselves focusing their political energy on their family members or people from back home, whatever. So like if you have, a certain amount of watts of energy to like go out and like do stuff around Palestine liberation or like caring for unhoused people, like all things you care about, you don't need to spend it all arguing with like your shitty uncle who like hates homeless people and loves Israel. Like that isn't necessarily good for the world. There's or for you. Those can be, and a lot of times those people don't listen to us. They think of us as kids. Like they will listen to anybody else first. So I think that's it's an okay choice to not decide that we don't all give political ed to every single person we encounter. Like, we make decisions about who we could influence and where's our energy best spent. So I don't think we have to. I also think it's okay to hang out with people who don't have the same politics as you, to connect over something else. Like that happens all the time. Like, there's so many, you and your neighbor are supporting someone in your building, and then you find out that your neighbor has this other belief, but you also are doing something that you think is politically aligned together. Like, we're all really complicated. I think some people can connect with somebody about something they want to connect on and be able to set aside certain. This is just like a really personal decision. No one's going to be exactly like us, right? And we can't we can't convince everyone of everything. So I feel like it's really just like, for me, the question asker in this, it's clear that for this person, their family's genocidal politics are intolerable. They don't want to be around it. And it'd be a different question if they were like, how do I figure out how to hold these people with love, even though they have this? What's the way I can hang out with them anyway, or how do I manage this in myself? But I think, yeah, like I think it's interesting what you're describing, Nicole. Like maybe we all do always want to ask ourselves, am I being hypercritical to protect something? Am I being, we can misuse our politics also to do all kinds of things emotionally and distance ourselves from people in different ways. So I always want to look at that, but I think if we know like, oh, this is a real no-go, and then we're still sad that we're not included, or that we don't want to go to the vacation, there's just some room for the grief on that.
Yeah. Thank you. I think this is wise. I mean, it's true. Like, certainly I've tried to influence my family members, and that can only get so far. That's the kind of like, okay, what's in my control today and what is out of my control today? What's in my control is I've told them all these things a number of times, and now that's kind of all. So is it a tolerable space for me to show up in knowing that or not?
Yeah.
Okay. This is a long question. You ready to buckle in?
I'm ready.
Here we go. One moment, please. Dear Nicole and Dean, I have a feeling my question's too much and perhaps out of the activist scope and more in the academic scope. I moved across the country with my partner to work in the Deep South at a school of public health, in particular as faculty in a Center for Study of LGBTQ Health Inequity. My partner and I are trans, masc, and non-binary, and white. The woman who recruited me is a cis, white, married, and straight woman with kids. She also holds an inaugural endowed chair in LGBTQ health. And not surprisingly, as I've come across similar characters throughout my career, she harbors fantasies of being pansexual, bisexual, and unfortunately has been really messy trying to live that fantasy while still keeping her marriage/nuclear family intact. In May, she very suddenly disposed of her best friend, whom she had also introduced to me and my partner, and we all had become friends. She cut her best friend completely out of her life, she said, because she was having an emotional affair with her and her marriage/family life could no longer sustain such a friendship. And she didn't simply dispose of her best friend and be done with her. She then retained a lawyer to lobby accusations of stalking and harassment, even though it is her who clearly has an unhealthy attachment to her former best friend. None of this information has been shared with me by my colleague. Her former best friend has shared it with us because she was so confused by this breakup from an emotional affair. Also, my colleague went MIA for the entire month of May, canceled all meetings and worked from home and did not acknowledge any of this. She said she was working on a family crisis, which is probably also true. Her husband is very traditional. My colleague and I, and a couple others, share an office suite, and she is supposed to be my mentor, even though we're basically at the same point in our careers. I set a boundary about a month ago, telling her I cannot collaborate with her or attend meetings or happy hours at her house until things settle down with her. We still work in the same office suite, and she is still my mentor, but our dynamic has shifted for better and worse. The worst part is that she occasionally lobs passive threats my way that allude to her power across campus relative to mine, which is basically zero since I'm new faculty. Anyway, I thought about giving her Dean's book to read. I've thought about requesting mediation, and I've considered making an anonymous complaint to the university's hotline about her misuse of power, e.g. smoking marijuana at her house and offering me some, which of course I don't really care about, but it is an example of her lack of professional boundaries. I did ask her to stop hosting happy hours and work meetings at her house, and she has, to her credit. I'm also hoping to leave this university, which is unfortunately unpredictable, caving to the administration's demands. E.g., they keep telling me I can do trans health research, but then if I do any public-facing talks or interviews here, I cannot use the terms trans or LGBTQ, etc.
Wow.
But fortunately, the university has no control over what I publish in academic journals. But it could take a while for me to find another job and get moved. In the meantime, I would like to improve the quality of my professional life. I don't know if citing her your book's going to do that. Sorry for the long-winded question. I've actually left out so many unhinged details. I'm pretty miserable, even though things have settled down over the last 10 days. For context, this erupted May 1st when she abruptly broke up with her best friend via email, and there is no one at work whom I can confide in about this. Nobody else knows what happened with her best friend, and this woman does have a lot of power over my colleagues who are more junior and who do LGBTQ-related health research. And as a new faculty member, I don't feel comfortable going to those higher up, like my chair or the heads of other centers whom we work with, etc. Thanks for any insights. Sincerely, they're in the South? Wandering in Wisconsin. Sorry, that's not the South. I did my best.
It really isn't.
Wilmington. Really strongly is not in the South, but here we go. I say this as a Midwesterner. Okay, what's the actual... I mean, my question is, what are the actual questions we're seeing here? Because I'm also seeing this person's living, it seems like, in a small town, or they're far from home in a new place, and they're lonely. And this feels like big news because there's maybe less other stuff going on.
Yeah, I mean, I think I think it's a great opportunity to be like, this has nothing to do with me. Like this whole thing with the person and her best friend, and the best friend doesn't even work there. So we don't know this woman to be like harassing any colleagues or whatever, or any junior faculty. Like all of that seems like speculation. And this person, she sounds like she might just be someone this person doesn't want to get close to, which is like so many of her coworkers, we don't want to get close to. And I think I would never make complaints at the university against someone in this way. To me, it just feels very like, it's kind of, narky copy type stuff. Like, it's just like, we should resolve conflict if we're having it. And I think this person has done some of those steps. Like they've said what their preferences are. And they don't have to go to this person's house if they don't want to. Doesn't sound like the person's like holding anything over them. Like, you must go to my house or I will prevent you from getting tenure or something like that. You know what I mean? So it sounds just like this, like they don't like this person's style and boundaries and way of being, and they're judgmental of her sexuality and family life. But like, then just don't be close to her. And I would not give her my book. I think giving people self-help books in general is something to do with great caution. It's unless someone likes that kind of book, or they liked another book by that author, or like you were having a conversation where they were like, oh, that sounds cool. And you were like, I'm reading this really cool book. Are you interested? But like, I think it just comes off as like judgy in our culture. So, yeah, but I think the main thing is just kind of like, feeling a sense of, in situations like this where I'm like, oh God, I'm around someone weird and they kind of freak me out. I'm like, okay, well, where's my safety? My safety is I don't have to do stuff I don't want to do. I can make a direct request if I need to. I can stick to what I need to do to get the next job I want. Like, just kind of staying over here with what I need to do to feel well, since I can't really change other people and I can't get rid of them either. It's like almost impossible to get rid of somebody else at work, So like, I feel like it's not worth like trying, and it usually creates like big drama.
I agree with all this. Yeah. I mean, I've definitely lived in a small town for academic kind of thing that was very important to me, and then became close to and then disillusioned with people who lived there, who had power over me, and it feels overwhelming. And it feels like something that you just kind of spiral over a lot. But yeah, at the end of the day, can you make your world bigger in a different direction?
And not think so much about them. I think it's sometimes when I'm filled with critical thinking about someone, it's actually hurting me. The experience of having all the critical thinking is hurting me, making me feel uncomfortable, paranoid, unsafe, stressed out. And so like, okay, I'm going to think less about this person. They're not actually doing something to me right now. Like maybe they occasionally say something I don't really like, but some people do.
I have to say this emotional affair thing feels very Dr. Laura. Like I love.
Let's talk about that term. What do you think of that term, Nicole?
What do I think of that term? I mean, I think it's real. It's like, well, I just want to say, from listening to conservative talk show radio in my 20s, like men and women, there was like a lot of, oh, you can't be friends with the opposite sex. They're just going to want one thing. And that was the whole, like, it's like very like Mike Pence not being able to go to like lunch with a woman, like not having a meal with a woman. Feels very much this lady's life. What do I think of the term emotional affair? I mean, I think it's real. There's another term I want to bring into the fold, which is an intrigue, which my friends and I use, which is like, the difference between just having a friend and when you are getting into an intrigue. Like if you're in a monogamous relationship and there's somebody who you're like pretty titillated by and you're feeding that, you're sprinkling seeds all over that, but then you're like, what are you talking about? Nothing's happening. That feels like an intrigue. The what are you talking about feels like the emotion, the quote unquote affair part, but the sprinkling seeds is like the intrigue part.
I'm against dishonesty. And I think the term emotional affair, I have seen it used again and again. Like, let's say you and I are in a monogamous relationship and you have a really close thing happening with someone that's really delighting you, and you're having creativity, and maybe you're sending each other cute art and whatever else is happening. And you're like, look, I never fucked them, Dean. We were monogamous. And then I'm like, no, you had an emotional affair. It's like, actually, you didn't fuck them. Like, I feel like there should be like, I think there's a way in which people, again, it's used all different ways. And that's different than identifying for myself. Oh, Dean, I've got some intentions here that I'm like hiding from my partner, Nicole, or whatever. And this is just all assuming, that we're having some kind of monogamy. In an ideal world, I'd like to be able to be like, Nicole, I'm enjoying this new friendship so much. It's crushy. And then you're like, great, that's so cute, whatever. Or I'm jealous or whatever you feel. But like, there's something about the accusation of emotional affair to me that's like, people went out of their way to actually not break the boundary. You gotta like not tell them they then broke it when they didn't actually get to fuck. Like, but sometimes I just question that. It does feel related to what you're describing about like, basically, if you're close to anyone besides a lover, or if you're excited about a relationship besides a lover, there's something wrong with you, or you're doing something wrong, or you owe all of that magic and juice to only a lover. And I just like, I really don't like that. And I want us all to have like a lot of different kinds of excitement that don't need to be labelable or distinguished into categories. Like, I think like I get dopamine when I get messages from you, Nicole. I'm like, oh, it's Nicole. Like, I'm excited. You know what I mean? Like that. It's like, we're not having a sexual relationship, but like I could have a lover who is jealous of you. That would be totally likely because I love my messages from you and I spend a lot of time communicating with you. Like, I don't know. I just feel like it can become a rationalization for jealousy that says like, my jealousy is true. Even though you didn't fuck, I'm still accusing you of cheating on me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, it also just feels like a way of control. Like, you're too excited about that friendship. Yeah. Calm it down. Be excited about me only.
Right. Or also like maybe you're having sexual fantasies about someone else. Is this a thought police relationship? I don't know. I'm just like, yeah, people are not like, people are alive and have a lot of interests. And it's pretty intense if you're like, I don't like you being excited about other people in any way,
Yeah. It's interesting because I'm like, because it does feel like sometimes there is a different quality to the sort of like almost like Victorian kind of like, oh, but we can't, like getting really close to somebody you're feeling romantic about. You're not just feeling like I'm so excited about this friendship and this person, but you're like feeling romantic about them. Just like imagine your faces getting right next to each other's face and be like,
Right. Or
no.
if you're talking to this other person about how much we're completely crushed out and in love, but we're not going to do it, it could start to feel like you're hiding something from someone else that if they found out about it, they would feel lied to. For me, I'm always looking for like, am I downplaying stuff? Am I acting like am I being dishonest? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and am I using someone as the foil? Am I like over here whispering to my non-lover, like, God, we just wish we could be together if it wasn't for Nicole. And if you heard this stuff, you would feel like shit. And I'm using you as the foil and I'm getting all this excitement because I'm not telling you. Then that's actually not cool. I wouldn't call it an affair. I would just call it like being dishonest and disrespectful to you. Like, don't do it.
Yeah. Thanks for being respectful to me.
Try.
Okay. We have a question about, we actually have two questions about this. So I'm just going to read one of them about conflict and friendship. One moment, please. Speaking of friendship. Dean, I feel like there's so much more to say about, hold on. I feel like there's so much more to say. Okay, sorry, I just was doing three things at once. I wrote down the timestamp and I found the friendship question. And then I was thinking more about this thing of using other people as a tool for whatever. Like using like the thing of like pitting people against each other, being like, oh, Dean's so jealous of our friendship. And then me saying to you like, oh, there's nothing, like just that kind of thing, like pitting people against each other to feel important. To have you
to feel a thrill.
like, for you, Dean, my monogamous partner, to be like, hey, I want more attention. You're hanging out with this person, and I'm getting attention from you. And then I'm going to this person, and we have this embattled kind of thing, which is like my least favorite sort of bonding is embattlement, where you're like, it's us against the world. Dean doesn't understand our friendship. Like that kind of triangulation is such a drag.
This is actually the most distasteful thing for me in non-monogamy. Like if you and I are together and then you also start seeing Billy and the idea of you guys laying in bed talking about what I might think about your connection, I'm just like, just leave me out of it. Like, just please don't speculate about my emotions. Please don't talk to your new lover about what my feelings. Yeah, there's something about that is that, I mean, it's probably just some like, I probably should work on that, but it's just like something where I'm just kind of like, oh, can we just have a little more separateness,
Yeah. Well, and also it's like foiling any friendship you may have ever had with Billy for someone to triangulate it and be like, ooh, Dean's so mad at you.
Or it's like Billy, I don't know Billy, so I don't want Billy to be hearing a lot about me, You
get privacy.
Yeah.
You still get to have privacy. Okay. Dear Dean and Nicole, I'm wondering about your experiences with rupture and repair in friendships. What has been helpful, successful, not successful in the repair part of the process and why? We have so many models for how to have these kinds of conversations in romantic relationships, some helpful, some not. But I think we could use some models for how to mend a friendship. In trying to do relationships, including friendships in a non-romance myth way, I would love to hear your experiences with friend conflicts that you were able to heal. How can we foster and nurture our friendships, especially when the going gets rocky? And we have one more about this exact same thing, which is how to navigate conflict in a close friendship that was improperly handled and difficult to repair now. This conflict led me to reflect and realize I am the person that has been overcompensating, making a lot of compromises to accommodate this individual to maintain this close friendship and didn't enforce my boundaries until now. I'm having trouble figuring out how to talk about the conflict in a way that allows us both to process feelings, but also talking about this effort of imbalance happening without sounding accusatory. Or is it better to enforce my boundaries from now on by not letting myself make all the compromises and accommodate the friendship to work? So let's talk about the overarching theme, and then we can go into these boundaries.
Yeah, this is such a wonderful question. I mean, what the thing that comes out of the first question that I'm thinking about is like, it's true people expect to work on romantic relationships and they don't have the same expectation of friendships. And one way I see this turn up is people will be like, oh, maybe I don't like her that much anyway. Like people will, because we all, conflict avoidance is very culturally normative. So if we, if I feel conflict avoidance, but you're my lover, I'm often likely to still somehow find a way to stick together, either put away my concern or bring it up even though it's hard or whatever. But I feel like when it's friendship, and I'm like, I'm afraid to give Nicole this feedback about this thing you've been doing that's hurting my feelings or whatever it is, or something that went down that felt bad. A lot of times I see people just tell themselves whatevs and just kind of like slightly disappear from the friendship. And it's because friendship as a whole is devalued in our culture. So it's much easier for us to just like let it go. And more of us have like sticky, anxious, obsessive feelings about the lover relationships and we'll like work harder on it. And there's also more of a status. Like, if your lovership ends more likely than you do if your friendship just kind of like fizzles, right? So I think a lot of people just, it gets uncomfortable in the friendship and they let it fizzle or they don't respond much. And then the other person's feelings are kind of hurt and they don't say anything about it either. And it's like this kind of moving apart without ever being discussed. And I feel like a lot of my friends tell me this is happening in their friendships and they're distressed about it. I'm like, talk to the person. And then she wouldn't change anyway. Or I think he'll just be defensive, or they have all these reasons they're talking themselves out of trying to connect more. And I think that is about that's ultimately about the romance myth telling us that it's worth it to work on lover relationships, or you have to, or it's a really big deal if you break up and friendships don't matter anyway. I'll just get a new one. There's some kind of devaluing.
I think it's really, I don't think I'm like exceptional at dealing with conflict in friendships, but I'm working on it all the time. And it's been really helpful for me to think about my family dynamics and how I'm bringing that into my friendships and then my conflict dynamics personally. So I have people I'm in friendships with that feel as important to me as my sisters. And so it's important. So then I think about getting triggered by them in the same way I'm triggered by my family members, and then receding in the same way I do in my family role. And so it's like just that thing that we work on in our romantic relationships or wherever, of just actually seeing well, what does this person represent to you? Is this person your parents? Is this person that giving your friendships the weight of this is your family? What role are you giving them? And how are you treating them based on that role? And how can you do contrary action to show up and let them know and be vulnerable with them? And I think with family, compassion for them. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And with family and lovers, people assume it won't go. I'll just, if I retreat, I'll have to come back to them anyway. I think with friends, there's kind of a lighter, that's what's also beautiful about friendship, is that we don't feel as obligated in it. So we can be in more consensual, less coercive connections and do amazing conflict work with each other,
Yeah.
That was one thing I'm having people a lot lately in my workshops ask themselves is, what goes through my head when I'm deciding not to give someone feedback? Do I tell myself they don't matter that much anyway, or they won't listen to me anyway, or my feeling isn't a really big deal anyway? How do you talk yourself out of that connective moment? Because most of us think the feedback will disconnect the relationship, and it actually would deepen it, right? If you say, Dean, when you are late, when we're supposed to hang out, it feels this way to me, and I hear you and say, oh, wow, I'm really sorry that my actions made you feel that way. We're closer now. You're like, oh, wow, Dean showed me he's trustworthy. He heard me. That hasn't happened that much in our culture, And I'm like, oh, wow, Nicole really cares about our friendship and told me what I didn't bail on me when I fucked up, it feels sad to me that we talk ourselves out of that feedback. But I want to go to this question. I'm curious if you want to share anything, Nicole, experiences you've had with friendship repair that you think are useful here.
I've had my personal kind of way of being from my family of origin is just to have my feelings hurt profoundly and then kind of fade away a little bit and then see how I feel, if I can just jump back in or not. But I have had friends come to me years later because we had durable, long-time friendships and apologize for things that were really huge. And I have had moments of also being able to apologize to friends. But I think that is kind of a separate issue that also exists in relationships, but just understanding at some point through means of, recovery groups or therapy or whatever, that if you apologize for something, you're still going to be lovable. Like, you get to put the thing you did out in the open and say it, and like overcome the shame of being like, maybe if I don't say anything about it, they'll forget it never happened. But like repeating it, saying it, and then being able to apologize, I think has been really helpful. And acknowledging like, oh no, I think I was a dickhead. Or like asking a friend, like, was I being a dickhead? I'm really sorry. And like, it just even if they don't say, because I know some of my friends that I'm attracted to also have a similar, probably family life of retreating. And so really taking accountability when I feel I've done something that I'm not proud of or acted in a way that was too sharp or something, and being able to actually reach out to them and be like, hey, was I acting like a jerk during this phone call? I'm really sorry. Or I felt like I was acting like a jerk, so I wanted to apologize. That's, I think, created more durable friendships because it's opened up the pathway for discussion.
Yeah. When I think about repair, one thing I think about, I've had a background idea for a million years to like do an anthology where everybody tells stories of relationships that broke down and repair, just because we need to hear that so badly, because we live in a like throwaway culture of like, if something goes bad, you just ditch them, and people ditch everyone all the time really easily. And I think it's beautiful to hear about repair. But I'm remembering a relationship I had in my 20s, somebody I met who was like really politically inspiring to me. I was learning a ton, and we were in the same organization together. I was learning so much from him. I probably was like crushed out on him in some deep way, like kind of intellectually and politically, and just thought he was so cool. And we ended up having a lot of conflict in the group that was really me and him head to head. And it was like, partly we were in our 20s, just like learning some stuff about organizing, that's hard, learning about relationships and people. And it was really hard. And it was like to the point where it was like kind of like silent treatment type of stuff in meetings, like very bad for us and bad for the people around us, bad for the group. And then we really repaired, like maybe like we had kind of 2 years off, and then we really repaired to have like been like lifelong friends. And like, to me, just to be able to be like, I always loved you the entire time, and you're always really important and influential to me. And that's why it was so painful when you disappointed me. And I'm willing to come back to it and tune into that love. I don't need to create a lifelong story about how you're the villain. Like that was really powerful. And the other thing I'm thinking about is a really long friendship I have with someone where we, like, when we met when we were really young, we were dates, and then really close friends ever since then. And we have a way now of really being able to be like, wow, what you said just felt really bad. Like, or maybe say it a couple of days later, or like, I feel like you're pressuring me, or I feel like you're rushing me, or like there's various dynamics, it kind of sounds like you're judging me for the way I'm handling this, really, whatever. So when something like that happens, being able to say it and have the other person really be like reflect, like, it's just like the relationship means so much to both of us, and it's not going anywhere. And so it's possible to do, I think, what you're describing, to actually have moments of like give the feedback, get the apology, like have that be real. Think about one another's tendencies. Think about, oh, these are things I do that I know historically have bothered him. Can I try not to do that? Like, I might still do it sometimes because I'm me, but like, can I kind of think about like what I know affects this person, or how I land on this person sometimes that's not ideal for them. And like a willingness, a dedication, and a knowing, yeah, we're going to make mistakes and we're going to have, more blips. But like, I think that level of trust of being able to have repairs again and again is so rare in our culture.
I think there's something else that, like, you saying that made me think, it's also like, we know our friends so well, giving them grace around moments where we know they're going through a life change, or we can see they're more raw or vulnerable. And so we might bump up against each other, and giving them some grace for that. It doesn't mean that that's how they are all the time. They haven't shown themselves to be that way all the time, but sometimes they're going to have rough patches. And that's like the gift of friendship, is like getting to be with somebody through those moments where you're like, ugh, you're acting so weird. And it's like, well, they just had these like major life changes, or they're like incredibly stressed or in grief. or whatever. Like, give them a little space to act weird, you know?
And just to be real, right now, everyone is doing so poorly. Like I am shocked by it, by the kinds of the ways it's showing up in people's physical health and people's relationship to substances and people's anxiety levels, depression, flaking, being bossy. Like I'm just seeing it. I'm just like, this is how it is living in these really intense times. It's probably gonna keep being like this. So like our ability to be flexible with one another and compassionate and give direct feedback when there's an impact. We just like need those skills more like that. It's like our friends are at their worst, including all of us.
Yeah. Be gentle with each other. You know, as much as you can like unharden yourself, do it. I heard our teacher, Arena Weissman, at some point talking about, you know, if I'm thinking the same thought multiple times, like 3 times or more, I'm seeing the situation with a closed aperture. And so I think about that a lot, especially if I'm dug in a negative way about something that a friend has done that hurt my feelings, is I'm like, how can I see this in a different way? How can I open this up and see it through a lens of love? What does that mean?
This makes me think of the second part of this question, which was this person who's like, should I tell them that I've been compromising too much? And to be honest, my instinct, I mean, I don't know, but my instinct on this is not to try to convince someone else of a narrative of the whole relationship, you know, but instead just start having boundaries now. Like, just like try out for yourself. Oh, what would it feel like for me to say no in a thing that I usually say yes to, or whatever the limit is that you haven't been doing? Because I think that it can be a lot. If I was like, Nicole, for the last 2 years, you've been like this and I've been like this. There's a lot to disagree on there and there's probably a lot I haven't seen about your side of it, you know, but if I'm just kind of like, oh, can we have this the next time we hang out or whatever, or I don't want to do this with you or whatever. Like that's like, just start. To me, it's just like start now is like easier than like have a narrative, you know?
It would feel so bad if you were like, just so you know, you've been stepping on my toes for 2 years and I never said a word. And now's the time and I want you to know. I'd be like, oh no, that wasn't my intention at all. And now I'm like going through the home movie of every moment I've spent with you and then feeling intense remorse. Okay. Are you ready for another question?
Yeah.
Dear Dean and Nicole, I would love some advice about recognizing the potential signs of enmeshment with someone and how to unenmesh gently and intentionally. For context, I haven't been in a committed relationship in about 15 years. Hold on. Due to my mental health / OCD wreaking havoc on my ability to commit and be vulnerable with someone long enough for a partnership to form. However, I was lucky enough to have connected with someone 4 months ago that has changed all that. But I'm feeling like I've gone from 0 to 10 overnight with no steps in between. And now we're talking about potentially moving across the country together and living together. For context, I've been theoretically non-monog for those 15 years, but with little actual practice in it. They have a lot of experience dating non-monogamously. When they told me recently they hooked up with someone for the first time since being together, I feel like my nervous system has been completely dysregulated. My anxious brain is spiraling with rumination and stuck in scarcity mode. I can't seem to get out of fight or flight. Am I doomed to monogamy and non-monogamy? Sorry, this question has gone off in various directions. For clarity, I do have a great therapist and good support network, but I'm afraid of losing myself nonetheless in the romance myth I thought I was so aware of and would never fall in. Thanks for listening. From Loving in Louisiana. I mean, oxytocin is a powerful thing. Limerence is a hell of a drug. It is a hell of a drug.
It is such a drug.
Like,
4 months and living cross country. That's a drug. That's the drug talking. Don't move across the country after 4 months.
This is like you're snorting lines. Like you're just both like high out of your gourds. Like, you know what else we should do? You know what else? Let's start a business. Let's start a family.
Let's start a business. Yeah. Let's get it going. I think the other thing about this is like, it's good information that it was really dysregulating when the person had another date or whatever. So that's a great reason to stay in your own support system. If you're going to be doing an open relationship and you know it's like pretty stirring, don't move across the country and do it without friends. You know what I mean? Like try out this very juicy, difficult, new set of practices, like with the maximum cushion. And I think that like, yeah, I think doing things like running away together early in the relationship, very likely to put too much pressure on it, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, there's no pressure to have any style of relationship. There's not one isn't better than another.
not.
You're not doomed if you have monogamy. You're not doomed if you have non-monogamy. Like you get to change your mind and you get to see how it feels, but you also can like examine what you need and the stories you're telling yourself about this information. And like Dean said, surround yourself with a lot of friends and rely on the things you've relied on prior to this person's oxytocin blast to your brain. With that said, let's talk about enmeshment. You're feeling enmeshed. How to unenmesh gently and intentionally. Well, I think it really is like, even though I'm assuming that because you are in the honeymoon period, that you want to spend all your time with this person, staring at them. And it feels like every moment on earth without doing that is wasted. But in fact, I encourage you to force yourself to hang out with other people. I encourage you to take even an entire day alone without talking to them and taking some time to write down for yourself what you need and your boundaries. So then when you guys make plans for the following week, you actually are building in time to take care of yourself or take care of your other relationships. That's what I think.
Yeah. I think some of the things I look for that I might call enmeshment or codependency or the stuff is like, do I think someone else is responsible for my feelings or do I think I'm responsible for their feelings? Like those are for me two big flags. Like, do I think that I'm entitled to have this person make me feel better? You know, they should be at my beck and call or whatever, you know, they should do something I like or whatever. Or do I feel like if they're having a hard time or I should anticipate their needs or I should like be the one that be the thing they need or want all the time. To me, those are big ones. And just like trying to feel that I am like, I'm a person. I was a person before I knew them. You know, I might be a person after I know them. Like I have my own path I'm on. It may be parallel to theirs. I'm glad to be meeting them, but like, there's so much about them I don't know. Sometimes I do a mental exercise where I imagine kind of like pulling all the stuff about them that's stuck all over me, putting it in a box and sending it to them, just being like, I'm going to spend some time just with me for a while, you know, just coming back into like, a lot of us just can't feel ourselves when we've got a big crush, you know, we just can't remember who we are. And it seems like the sun rises and sets with this person. And it's just like, it's not true. They're just a person. They're eventually going to like show some disappointing qualities. They're going to not, you know, meet all of our wildest dreams of how to be loved and seen. And they're probably really cool. And I'm super glad you met them. You know, like it's like just having a more balanced view. And I think I love what you said, Nicole. I think I like spending time apart can really also it's fun and makes it hot. It's like fun to be like, oh, I get to miss you some. But spending time apart, thinking about what my plans are for myself with other people, other priorities I have that are not centered around them.
Yeah. I was thinking recently about like the feeling of being in a relationship and feeling like sad about something that the person was doing and being and having a reframe of being like, what if that sadness is just acceptance? That maybe that piece of news is disappointing to me, but it's not that they hurt my feelings or anything. It's just like, what if that sadness is just the feeling of like acceptance? And so I challenge you as you're in this kind of honeymoon, like fast paced 0 to 10 thing of wanting to move and whatever, to really like those things, like to make sure you're keeping note, even in a little diary of those things that feel like flags to you. So that you can look at them clear headed at some point.
It makes me think about the moment when the person had a date with someone else and then our question asker felt freaked out. Like, what lessons do we get from that? Do we go to that person, try to get them to confirm that you're the best thing in the world? Do you know, what do you do with the feeling? Like when you experience the moment when you don't get all the love you ever fantasized, like because you feel jealousy, like, oh, they like spend time with other people too, or whatever it is. How can that be brought into a sober reality? Yeah. We both might be interested in other people sometimes. We've agreed to that. Part of me is grieving. Part of me wants to be someone's one and only in this very particular way, even though that's not what I signed up for, even though that's not the agreement or what I believe in or whatever. Okay, I'm just feeling the grief. That's mine. I get to feel that. I get to have that. Like that can kind of bring us out of the like dizzying fantasy into just like, yeah, I'm probably sometimes we're gonna miss each other. I'm gonna not get what I want. They're not gonna get what they want. We're gonna like this is just they're just another person, just like all the other people I've known. They are a mixed bag of things that are like really delightful to me. And I think it's like acceptance, but also like the part of us that's grieving. Like, oh, right. I probably have an unrealistic expectation sometimes. That's okay too. No judgment of myself, but yeah, I'm a little sad. It's not that way. It's instead like a more realistic way.
Yeah, I think it's doing the other person a service to just be like, oh, that just makes me uncomfortable, and just to sit with it so that they're not on such a high pedestal that where there's further to fall. If along the way there's little moments of you being like, oh, they're a human with flaws. Interesting.
Yeah, or they're just different from me. Like they just
They're
don't want the same
different from
things I
me.
want. Like they may not be a bad thing. It's just not, they're not me. I didn't design them. You know?
I'd literally had the thought of like, all right, you're uncomfortable that other people are different than you. Like, what would it feel like if they were exactly like you? And I'm like, God, who knows? Have you thought about that?
Well, I mean, I think one of the ways I think about this actually is like, I'm fascinated by the different ways people might have like 3 and 4 person relationships, because my experience is that I'm attracted to people who are different from me in some pretty particular ways. Like you could look at my dates and be like, they've got some qualities that are similar to some degree. And so if we had like a third person in any of those relationships, would they be like me or like them? You know what I mean?
Oh,
Right.
oh my God, I
'Cause
love that.
for me, I'd enjoy it more if they were like the other way, because that's hotter to me. But just like, yeah, it's way oversimplification, very oversimplifying the dynamics in between all the many people that I've ever dated. But there's like some patterns of at least my side of the projection.
Interesting. I think it'd have to be a 4-person, so you each got a delegate.
Mm-hmm.
Dear Dean and Nicole, I'd like to submit a question to the advice hotline. I'm in a group chat with my partner's ex, and things between my partner and the ex did not end well. Every time I share that I'm happy with my partner, the ex says they are happy for us, but eventually shares upset feelings about the way they were treated or expressed concern for me in the relationship, even though I'm perfectly content. They also propose a lot of narratives about why my partner is randomly nicer to me than them, even though we have completely different needs, desires, and irritants. I find myself giving them a lot of assurances, which is getting tiring, then wanting to challenge their narratives, which feels like overstepping. They obviously still have a lot of feelings about the ex and often make the chat about their feelings, but I don't know how to point this pattern out. I'm thinking of just being less active in the chat, but are there other options? Thank you. From Chatting in Chattanooga.
I have so many questions. One is that the person is perfectly content. I wish I'd ever met anyone who feels perfectly content about a relationship. Anyway, very juicy. Please write more about that. But also, what is this group chat? Like what?
Who's on the group chat?
Where is the group chat where you're with your partner's ex and they're talking to you about your relationship, but who else is listening? And what is this group chat? Like, is that family members in it? Is it like a hobby group? Is it like a church group? Like what? Where is this conversation happening?
It's a scrapbooking group.
Is everybody else like so awkward? I'm like, God, they're talking about their shared lover again.
Wish you would have taken me to dinner. Sigh. Eye roll.
Yeah. I'm sure you think you're happy with her, but I don't know. Yeah, I'm for the hell out of this group chat personally. I'm like, this is we already talked about how I like everything to be nice and separate.
Nice and separate. Do you have to be in the group chat? You don't have to reassure them or challenge them. Is the thing. I heard somebody say
I would stay out of it. I don't want to talk to my lover's exes about their beliefs about my relationship with my lover, and especially not in a group chat with other people.
Well, it's like there's something that it's inappropriate. It's totally inappropriate. Like, okay, sure, the bell tolls for all of us, right? Like, let me have my own problems with this person. Let them be separate from, like, you're trying to just drag me into your exact experience of being like, well, I'll tell you she's like this. I'm like, well, give me the opportunity to find that out. Give me the opportunity to actually like have the relationship I'm having, and then like I just
And I would
it's
never
not your
assume
place.
that they're the same. I mean, like, right, if someone dated you and then dated me, you
They have a great time.
have we done that? I don't know. But I don't think that they would have necessarily have the same behaviors. It's a different moment. They're with a different person. Like, who knows? Like, this seems like a not generative thing to speculate about.
No, but I also don't think it's helpful for you to be in such close contact with somebody who has an old picture of your partner. You know, like if this person dated your partner 10 years ago or 5 years ago or something, that's a totally different person. I'm assuming that you're all of an age where you're evolving along the way. And so somebody telling you a less evolved version of your partner and narrating that isn't helpful to the person that they are right now, who they've probably worked really hard to get here. And the irritant thing is huge. There's some people that things they do drive me up the wall. They're with somebody else. That person doesn't care about those things, and vice versa.
But I really can't. It's hard to picture the context of this question. I had to say, what is what is the ostensible purpose of this group chat? Is it like a signal group? Are we like planning a demo, or is it like a,
no.
You know what I mean? Is this like our pottery class group chat, or like, I don't know.
It's definitely a pottery class group chat.
Those are the worst.
I mean, those are the worst for triangulation, for sure.
For polyamory.
That's the polyamory pottery group, the kitchen table pottery wheel group chat. Dear Dean and Nicole, a lot of my friends and comrades have instilled in them by capitalism, etc., social scripts that if you don't silo off into a nuclear family structure, have a lifelong partner, and have kids, you'll end up alone and or lonely because everyone else will do this. I guess I'd just like further advice on how to deal with this fear that I think ends up influencing a lot of people's decisions to stay in relationships, even when they shouldn't, etc. It also, for some, feels like a race against the clock, and that by a certain age, you should at least have a partner. Anyway, thank you for all you do. Dean's book has been a huge help in general to dismantle social scripts that can a lot of the time dictate our lives. Love and solidarity from Solidarity in Sardinia, not in Sardinia, in Sacramento. I was talking to somebody the other day who's a dyke in her 60s who was like, I regret not having kids just because I think about wanting someone to take care of me. I'm like, I know a lot of people that don't want to take care of their parents, and kids are expensive. What if you put all that money aside that you would have put into kids, into your own future caregiver fund? It's like above and beyond. Like maybe all your friends are aging at the exact same rate as you, and so you're all going to need it. But like, you could pay for that.
Or put all that time into making deep intergenerational relationships so that we, if we all have a lot of relationships with people older than us and younger than us, we can care for each other. I mean, this is the thing. I love what you just said, Nicole. Also, I hear this when people are like, they've got a kid and they're like, we have to have a second kid because it's not fair to have one kid and have them have to take care of us. And I'm like, why do you think that one or both your kids are going to take care of you? Like, there's no guarantees. Like, tons of people are estranged from their parents and their children. Tons of times, only one kid in a family, even if there's 5 kids, 6 kids, only one kid takes care of the family. Sometimes nobody does. Like, sometimes siblings are the people who like abuse you the most. Sometimes they're your best friend. Like, there's just, I mean, I think this person's question, like, it's just so funny that people think like people who are married and settle down and own a house are happy because they're so unhappy, right? Like, you can be miserably unhappy in any of these settings. You can be wildly lonely and isolated in a marriage. That's actually the norm for straight culture, like, so maybe we've talked to so many people I know, they're dealing with an elder parent now who is such an isolated person, in part because they were in a totally isolating marriage. And maybe like one of the spouses has died and the other one's just like literally knows no one. Their kids live far away. They suddenly need support. And it's like, to me, the culprit here is actually the isolating marriage. Like, that deprive them of having friendship. So to me, it's like and I don't know if this ever happens to you, but often when I'm talking to somebody who's thinking about breaking up with their partner and like really contemplating it, there's often a scarcity. Like, what if I never find someone else? What if I'm not desirable anymore? What if there's nobody, people like us, whatever their identities are? And I just think this is like a cultural bullshit. Like there's like we don't if we don't have a partner doesn't mean we're alone. We can have lots and lots and lots of friendship and connection that's more reliable, often safer, more supportive, more diverse sources of care. And there are people looking for dates at all ages all the time. And it might not be like, like everything else, it might not be like, I wanted to have somebody who wanted to live with me. And I met someone nice, but they don't want to live with me. Or I wanted to meet someone local, but I found someone long distance or whatever. It doesn't mean we're going to all get like our perfect menu item. But like, I feel like the scarcity narrative is very harmful and causes people to stay in things that don't work for them. And the truth is, a lot of people, when they break up, have a lot of growth. Like breakups are quite good for people. It's not the only way to grow. People also grow in relationships in beautiful ways. But like, I hate that people are missing the chances for that kind of transformation because of a culturally imposed scarcity narrative, and often one that includes like this time bomb sort of story about age that's, um, just it's harsh. It's so mean.
And you just don't know other people's relationships. You never know what's going on in another person's relationship. You just don't. So you might see all these people and be like, they've hit maturity because they're in a multi-year relationship. You don't know what their relationship looks like. They could be hobbling each other. They could be like the movie Misery. Like, you don't know actually behind closed doors what their dynamics are, or how they talk to each other, or how they feel inhibited or not by each other. You just don't know. So yeah, let it go. You'll be okay.
It's hard.
With that.
And just being honest that it's hard living in a culture where there are cultural fantasies that tell us to judge ourselves and each other. And that's painful. We can grieve that and still be like, I'm not going to run my life in the same way. I'm not going to run my life based on like a beauty myth that tells me to diet, or I'm not going to run my, whatever. I'm not going to let these things that are toxic ideas designed to prevent me from my aliveness and connection to others and myself run me. And I'm not going to believe that TV tells me that this body or this, if I owned these things or if I had this relationship structure, I would be at peace. It's just a cultural fantasy.
It almost feels like, at some point in my teenage years, I just got a little bit of media literacy. And I was like, oh, if you don't want to be harshing on your own body, stop consuming media that's telling you your body's wrong. Like, look for media that reflects you. And then if it's not there, create the media that reflects you. It's like helped me go into a world of zines and help other people make zines. And it's kind of the same. It's like, see if you can find aging role models that are not this, that are not like your parents. Like, look for different kinds of aging role models, both like stylistically, people that are aging, like what their actual faces and bodies look like. And also people who are solo, like aging artists who you think are incredible and cool. And you have like no idea what their personal life is like.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, what's the integrity move? What's the thing that makes you feel alive? Is that the thing you can focus on as you age? Not like, I got to shack up. I got to get a couple kids.
As soon as I started getting in my 30s, I started hearing my peers say that they felt like they were too old to go out to like the gay club. Like club was full of people in their 20s. And then they continue to say that in the years to come. And I've continued to go to the gay bar, and I will be at the gay bar until I die, as long as it exists. And I'm just like, be the oldest person there. Like, just whatever, just letting go of these like, go do fun, interesting stuff and be part of it being possible for those spaces to be intergenerational. And then, of course, you do find the other people who are as old as you or older. And but yeah, I just feel like it's so easy to like, ageism is, I think, maybe a little less interrogated in our subcultures. Like, I think like fat phobia and different aspects of the way we internalize racism and sexism and transphobia and ableism. But I feel like we just don't talk about ageism super, super much, and it's interesting for me getting to be 48 and just like seeing the ways it pops up in different friends' lives or in different narratives inside myself. And just like, it's just like another bullshit thing. It's like, doesn't mean it's going to go away out of my mind, but I'm not going to let it run me, hopefully.
Yeah. And this podcast has long said, ageism is the only reason that prunes aren't a more popular snack.
You're the person who told me that they prevent bone loss, right?
They do. Prunes are great for bones.
Good to know.
Dean, should we wrap up or should we answer one last question in 5 minutes?
Let's do one last question.
Okay.
Hey, Nicole. Hey, Dean. Nicole, it's the student Martha Garvey. I don't know if I can do it snappy. I'll try to do it short. So, our dog has cancer, and they've taken it out. It's going to come back, inevitably. And I know you've been through this, and she's doing fine. I know that's not a snappy question, but what is to be done with this sort of in-between liminal space grief where your dog is fine, but science is pointing towards something else? Like, what's the tools that you would suggest? I know delighting in the present is one of them, but sometimes I just feel tired. Yeah, tired. And it may not come back for a while because, she's a fighter. It looks good, but it's the bad kind. It's the hemangiosarcoma kind. So I hope this is snappy enough. I have another question. I'm going to call later about that one. It's not about dogs. So that'll be for Dean, I guess. Okay, bye. Dogs. Sadness. Liminal space. Bye.
I had a dog with cancer, but I think this is a bigger, I take pet grief seriously. And I think this is a bigger question about grief in general. Someone we both know seemed to have a bad sort of cancer a few years ago, and people were freaking out about it. Like it was something that the person was like, this could be it. It's not it yet, but this could be it. And I remember hearing a death doula at the time address this group and be like, until people take their last breath, they're very much alive. I think it's really important. I know that you're freaking out, you're having your process, but it's really important to treat this person the way she is, which is she's very much alive. And that person ended up surviving that moment. And yeah, I don't know. I think it's important to somehow feel your grief, but also put that to be like, how much of this is now and how much of this is my fear of how it's going to feel in the future, and to actually be really present with the person or creature while they're still here. Because that's the whole thing we're fighting for, we're grieving for, we're appreciating.
Yeah, I mean, we're both into Buddhism, which really instructs us to contemplate impermanence. And that's really hard in our culture. Like our culture is all about promise of permanence, the lie of that the country is permanent, the lie that if we just buy the right things or take the right things or do the right things, that we'll be permanently happy. Like impermanence is so countercultural to be with. And I feel like when humans or pets or anyone in our world has like brushes with death, we get it, like we get this visitation of how impermanent it all is. And I do think one result of that is like the tragedy that we're all going to get sick and die or just die. That's so actually sad to me. I care about every single death, even if somebody got to live really old or whatever. It's still just awful. People die. It's so sad people die. When my pets die and animals die, and also, yeah, the kind of savoring, the just like, this is how it is right now. Like right now we're alive. Right now I have this beloved dog in my lap or whatever, and just like, I kind of think that's it. Like being able to hold those two things is impossible. We're all just, trying to touch those realities, but it's kind of a gift, becoming aware.
This feels kind of tied into the last question, because it's also when you were talking about breakups, it's like people's inability to understand that everything's impermanent. That our friendship is impermanent because one of us is going to die at some point. And your relationships can be impermanent, or they can just evolve and change. It doesn't have to be that you're romantic because that's the most important relationship with them. It could be that relationship evolves and changes into a different sort of friendship or a different sort of kinship or family kind of dynamic. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think the romance myth is the thing that tells you like that's the end of the world. Then your dog will go on to the next realm, and you can give your dog a beautiful life. And thanks for loving your dog so much.
I'm glad that you give space for pet grief on this podcast. I do feel like it is a really profound experience that is really ignored and downplayed in our culture. It's like really big deal to lose a being that you are so physically connected to day in,
Oh,
day
God.
out. And then people
24 hours a
really
day.
downplay it. Yeah.
Dean, thanks for coming and giving advice to us on the podcast today.
It feels so taboo to me still. Advice is so taboo. So I really love that you
Really?
invite it. Yeah.
Well, they asked for it. We're not giving unsolicited advice. They asked you for it. They
Consensual.
came knocking on your door. They
Yes.
said, Dean, please help me. Dean, please come
And
back to the podcast and give more advice.
I will. And I just want to apologize to anyone whose question I misunderstood, or if I in any way was hurtful in anything I said to someone about their tender questions. Thank you for sharing them with us and letting us try.
We're just trying our very best. Thanks for your questions. Sagittarian Matters is hosted and produced by me, Nicole J. Georges, with help from Ponyo Georges. Our executive producer is Chris Sutton, and our editor is Shauna Polly. Carolyn Pennypacker Riggs composed and performed our theme music. Please leave your 5-star reviews for us on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts, and find us on Instagram at Sagittarian Matters. You can support our show on Patreon, patreon.com/Nicole J. Georges. Thank you for your support. See you next time.
Sagittarian Matters.
P.S. I have a little extra advice, confidential for Martha Garvey or anybody whose dog has cancer or some kind of looming age or illness. Give your dog the most enriching, best life you can. If you can see the finish line, if you know that it's ahead of you, I'm saying spend extra time every day playing with your dog. Whatever that means to your dog, it's going to mean a lot to them. Take them on enrichment field trips. Let them have a dog-guided sniffari where you get to let them sniff as long as they want, wherever they want. I want you to drive them to grassy fields they've never been before. I want you to take them to high-traffic dog areas where they can sniff the pee of dogs they never even met. I want you to give them the most interesting kind of food they can possibly have. So if you have the option to augment their food with homemade, do it. This is it. This is the final stretch. These are the last moments of your dog's life. Maybe the last year of your dog's life, the last months, who knows? But do your very best to give your dog the awesome life that you want them to have. So once you say your final goodbye, and euthanizing your dog before they suffer too much is a total gift that you're giving them. It's really hard, but you get to usher them into the next world in a way that includes as little suffering as possible. And before that day, I want you to know that you did everything you could within your power, within what's reasonable for you and your schedule and your means and your life, to give them the best life they could have. And then they get to spend that time with you. Take them to the beach. Let them run off leash somewhere. If you live in a place that doesn't have yards or backyards, there's something called Sniff Spot. If you go on there, you're going to find people with like wild property that they're willing to rent you by the hour. So your dog can go like sniff around a horse ranch or a place on the edge of the forest, or your dog could go sniff around a pond. Just think about, what is your dog's Make-A-Wish Foundation dream? And I want you to do that. And that's my direct advice for you. It's actually an order, a command. Usually my advice is, take what you like, leave the rest. But this is, you're legally bound to take this advice. Thank you for listening, and thank you for loving your dog.